Roronoa Zoro is by far one of the most badass characters in One Piece, and for sure one of the most ruthless among the Straw Hats. Unlike other characters in One Piece, when Zoro has to, he does not hesitate to cut people, sometimes even killing them in the process. After all, that's the reason he became known as Pirate Hunter Zoro prior to the events of Episode 1. But do you remember all the victims of Zoro throughout the years? In today's video, we'll break down the 27 confirmed, as well as the 5 future victims of Roronoa Zoro. And yeah, I know, many of the victims of Zoro do share a very suspicious trait, but no, this is not my fault. Take any complaints you have for this to Oda. The first victim of Zoro is none other than the original Mr. 7. You see, before the events of Episode 1, as we explained, Zoro made a name for himself across the East Blue as one of the strongest swordsmen in the area. This resulted in the Baroque Works to gain an interest in him. Because of that, Mr. 7 was sent on behalf of Baroque Works to recruit Roronoa Zoro, who had gained fame as the pirate hunter in the East Blue. Zoro replied that he will join their ranks only if the organization takes him as the boss. Naturally, since that boss was Crocodile, Mr. 7's reply was that this would not be possible, but instead of taking this as a no and leaving while he still could, well, he did something stupid instead. Mr. 7 tried to use force against Zoro because of his refusal, and the result? He was killed by the superior swordsman. Even though this event was not drawn in the manga, Oda did give us a comical drawing of him, as well as a concept art through an SBS corner. In the live-action series, on the other hand, Mr. 7 approaches and fights Zoro on Sixus. After flipping off Mr. 7, Zoro went ahead to cut him in half. Not only that, but Zoro even took his body to Shell's town so he could claim his bounty. In the anime following Mr. 7's death, he was replaced by a new agent who took on the codename Mr. 7 as well. Next up, we have Dick. If you don't remember who this guy is, he's an anime-only bandit boss from the East Blue, having a notable bounty of 10 million berries. After his brother was captured, Dick and his gang of bandits raided the town that his brother was defeated in. He ordered his men to attack the townspeople's storage units and steal all the goods. Johnny and Yosaku then stepped in and announced that they were bounty hunters. Dick quickly defeated Johnny and Yosaku, and even though the two continued to put up a fight, he easily slapped and kicked them away. After Johnny and Yosaku are completely defeated, Dick decided to end it once and for all. However, to his surprise, the finishing blow is interrupted by Zoro, who now enters the fight. Upon learning that the man in front of him was the pirate hunter Roronoa Zoro, Dick smiled and proclaimed that the bounty hunter would be no match for all his men, even with 3 swords. Upon being corrected by Zoro that using 3 swords is not the same as using the 3-sword style, Dick asked to see this 3-sword style in action and ordered his men to attack. To his horror, his men are defeated with 1 move, but Dick responded immediately and readied his bazooka. His actions were, however, proven pointless as he was swiftly defeated by Zoro's onigiri attack. Now, these were only the first 2 points. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and let's keep going. Each battle from here onwards becomes even more even more epic. Having covered the events that came before Episode 1, let's see which other opponents Zoro defeated. You see, by the time Roronoa Zoro arrived at Shellstown, Morgan had become an outright tyrant, extracting high taxes from the townsfolk and building monuments to himself. When Zoro refused to follow suit, even killing Helmeppo's pet wolf for threatening a local girl named Rika, Morgan indulged his son's request to have the bounty hunter arrested and starved for a month. However, after 9 days of starvation failed to break Zoro, Morgan and Helmeppo decided to execute the bounty hunter as a warning to the townsfolk. Thankfully, before his execution took place, however, Monkey D. Luffy showed up and freed Zoro. The result of that, Axe Hand Morgan probably regretting his choice to mess with Zoro. Zoro, alongside Luffy, went ahead to destroy every marine standing in their way. After Luffy began overpowering Morgan as well, Helmeppo took Kobe as a hostage, which resulted in Luffy stopping his fight and turning towards Helmeppo. Even though Morgan thought this was the perfect moment to cut down Luffy, well, as it seems, he forgot one key detail: Zoro. Before Morgan landed his attack on Luffy, Zoro cut him down without much trouble. Moving on, we have Orangetown Arc, where the Straw Hats battle the Buggy Pirates. Zoro's main opponent is none other than Kabaji. Given that Luffy is weak against swordsmen, Kabaji tried to slice Luffy, but Zoro jumped in to save his captain. Kabaji proceeded to fight with Zoro and played dirty by striking Zoro's wounds whenever he had the chance. He also created flames through his breath and breathed directly into Zoro's face. However, once Kabaji was knocked off his unicycle, he became angered and attacked with more deadly acrobatic maneuvers. Zoro declared that if he could not topple all swordsmen like Kabaji, then he should give up his own dream to become the greatest swordsman. Kabaji was defeated by Zoro's onigiri, which cut open his chest. Up next, we have the Syrup Village arc. You see, after Monkey D. Luffy and Roronoa Zoro defeated the Black Cat Pirates for betraying Kaya and the whole village, as they tried to run up the slope leading to Syrup Village, Django called down Bucci and Sham to finish the fight. The two charged at Zoro while using their Neko Yanagi Daikoshin attack, which proved to be a struggle for Zoro as he only had 1 sword at this point. They kept attacking and eventually got a cut in when Zoro got distracted defending Usopp and Nami. In the end, Zoro held Bucci back and slammed him to the ground. In response, Bucci then flung Zoro off of him and sent the latter flying into the cliffside. Bucci then charged at him again, but by now, Zoro had become impatient and demanded that he get out of the way. Zoro then slashed straight through Bucci and thus defeated him once again. Up next, Arlong Park. That, remember, Zoro was heavily injured during this arc. After all, before Before this arc, we had the Baratier arc, where Mihawk brought Zoro to the verge of death. But even like that, Zoro did leave yet another victim behind, Hachan. You see, Monkey D. Luffy broke down the gates of Arlong Park. When Zoro, alongside Usopp and Sanji, showed up as well, Hachan immediately recognized Zoro and squared off against him. He had the advantage at first due to Zoro's previous injuries from Dracule Mihawk, making Zoro unable to fight at full strength. Zoro charged at Hachan, cutting his hair after the fishman ducked from the incoming blow. However, Zoro soon collapsed due to his wound. At this moment, Hachan attempted to cut Zoro into pieces with his six-sword style, but Zoro reversed it, repelling all of Hachan's swords whilst cutting the fishman's abdomen. Enraged, Hachan tried to explain that his 6 swords automatically outrank Zoro's 3 swords. However, Zoro responded by saying that his swords are heavier than Hachan's. Enraged, the fishman attempted to attack again, but his attack was repelled by Zoro's onigiri, which also destroyed all of Hachan's swords as well. In one last attempt to defeat Zoro, Hachan tried to punch Zoro into submission, but this was stopped by Zoro's Tatsumaki, which sent Hachan flying instead. A few arcs later, the Straw Hats set sail for their next destination. However, things are not that simple, as they are ambushed by the Baroque Works in Whiskey Peak. You see, as part of the organization's way to acquire funds, the town of Whiskey Peak was inhabited by bounty hunters whose goal was to capture novice pirates for their bounties. When the Straw Hats landed on the island, being led there by Mr. Nine and Miss Wednesday, they were targeted by the hunters. The Straw Hats seemed to be powerless as the Baroque Works trap worked on them until, well, Zoro decides to take action. The billions of the Baroque Works confused on why Zoro disappeared. They started to look for him when suddenly Zoro was right in the middle of the crowd looking up at the roof he was from. Roronoa Zoro defeated all of the 100 hunters on the island. Not only that, but Zoro was drunk as well during this arc. And yeah, we also had this menacing moment with Zoro holding Miss Monday's head in a way that seemed like, well, Zoro enjoyed torturing her quite a bit. On to Little Garden arc, where the next victim of Zoro was Mr. 5. Here, most of the Straw Hats are immobilized due to Mr. 3's ability. Once they broke free, however, well, Mr. 5 had to fight the Straw Hats. Mr. 5 attempted to kill Usopp by stating he was about to have his entire body explode, but was of course stopped by Zoro, who swiftly knocked him out with his Yaki Onigiri attack. But wait, because next we have Alabasta arc, where Zoro's most epic moment as of now happens. His next victim, Daz Bones. Before joining with Baroque Works, Daz was an infamous bounty hunter from West Blue and was known as the killer for his deadly skills. He was one of the most well-known bounty hunters in the world, to the point where even Zoro, who was on the other side of the red line, had heard of him. Having a body as hard as steel thanks to his devil fruit powers, Mr. 1 was able to withstand all of Zoro's attacks. Despite this, Mr. 1's opponent was able to withstand his attacks as well. As the battle continued, Mr. 1 attacked Zoro more brutally with each attack. Much to Mr. 1's surprise, no matter what he did, his opponent would not fall down regardless of the wounds Mr. 1 inflicted on him. In the apex of the battle, with his opponent completely covered with blood and wounds, Mr. 1 decided to finish Zoro once and for all. However, at that very moment, his opponent was finally able to slash through Mr. 1's metal body. Zoro is now able to cut through even steel. Next arc, Skypiea, where Zoro had yet another 2 victims. The first was Brahmin. You see, Brahmin was one of the Shandia warriors. Seeing the Straw Hats as enemies, he alone confronted the lost Zoro that, naturally yet again, lost his sense of direction. The two of them started battling, but once Zoro developed a new powerful technique in order to attack from distance, which he named 36-pound cannon shot, this swiftly finished Brahmin in one strike, leaving him unconscious. His next victim in Skypiea was Om. You see, Skybreeder Om was one of the 4 priests of the former god Enel and a high-ranking member of God's army. While assaulting Zoro with cloud sword strikes, Zoro charged towards him, but the priest turned his sword into an iron wall to stop him. Om turned the Eisen Whip into a variety of weapons to strike Zoro, using his mantra to overwhelm the swordsman and dodge or counter his attacks. Zoro ran behind a giant stone wall, and Om encouraged him to pray to God before meeting his end, and then he launched his blade through the wall towards Zoro. However, Zoro was unexpectedly able to deflect the blade, and then unleashed a flying slash attack called 108-pound cannon shot that blew through the crumbling wall and struck Om down, leaving him utterly defeated. Up next, the Straw Hats are on their way to Ennie's lobby, but along their journey, a Marine Vice Admiral attempts to stop them. After killing a Sea King that assaulted their car with one blow, T-Bone started running along the tracks by himself, seeking help and chasing the train. He was then reached by the Rocket Man, and after exchanging some words with Roronoa Zoro, he battled him on the rails, attacking him with various sword attacks. Despite his skills, he was eventually defeated by the Straw Hat Pirate Swordsman. Zoro's blow destroyed T-Bone's blade and knocked him into the sea as the Rocket Man sped down the tracks. But now we move on to Impel Down itself. Zoro's next victim is Kaku. You see, after the Straw Hats split to find the key to Robin's Sea Stone handcuffs, Zoro came across Kaku, and the two quickly battled each other, with Kaku revealing his own sword-fighting style. Later on in the fight, Kaku ended up causing the floor to cave in by transforming into his full giraffe form instead of his half-giraffe form. As Zoro and Kaku continued their one-on-one match, it seemed that Kaku had the upper hand thanks to improvising with his devil fruit and his swordplay. Until this was not the case. He was eventually defeated by Zoro once he activated a new power called Asura. Zoro then passed on a message from Paulie to CP9, telling Kaku that he and the rest of CP9 were fired. Kako expressed regret that he could no longer be a shipwright and that he genuinely enjoyed the profession. Zoro jokingly responded that he would always have the zoo. Kaku laughed and gave Zoro his key before passing out. Kaku's key was the final key to be obtained by the Straw Hats and also the key to Robin's handcuffs. Up next, the unlucky guy trying to stop Zoro was Helmeppo. After the Straw Hat pirates returned from their raid on Eni's lobby, Helmeppo and Kobe confronted Zoro and Luffy respectively at Water 7, but naturally, both Marines were easily defeated. While Luffy and Zoro remembered Kobe, they had no idea who Helmeppo was, until he remembered them and they briefly recalled him as the annoying spoiled brat, much to Helmeppo's dismay. Next, we have one of the most underrated moments of Zoro, defeating Shimotsuki Ryuma in Thriller Bark Arc. When Ryuma attempted to attack Frankie and Brook, Zoro jumped in and blocked his attack. Zoro went on to challenge Ryuma to a fight in Brook's and Frankie's stead. After proclaiming that he would take Shisui from Ryuma's corpse, Zoro attacked Ryuma, who blocked his attack without much trouble. At least, that's how it originally seemed. However, Ryuma observed that he had almost been cut in return as Zoro's attack slashed through the wall behind him. As the battle intensified, with both Zoro and Ryuma using powerful techniques that damaged the floor and walls, Ogback's laboratory could not take the damage, and the entire room caved in. Escaping from the wreckage before the structure gave way, Ryuma and Zoro continued their battle on the roof. With a mighty slash, Ryuma cut through the entire roof with his blade, but Zoro dodged the attack, and using the slashed off part of the roof as a ramp, launched an attack from above at Ryuma. Ryuma landed on top of the roof, while Zoro landed further down. However, the one who lost this battle was Ryuma. Accepting defeat, Ryuma decided to give Zoro his sword, believing that the soul of the sword would be most satisfied to serve under the man who defeated its preceding owner. After admitting that it felt sorrow at letting Ryuma's body be defeated, Brook's shadow left the corpse and returned to its rightful owner as the corpse was quickly swallowed by the flames and burned to ashes. Ever since then, Zoro carried Shisui as a replacement for Yubashiri, which was destroyed by Marine Captain Shu a few episodes before. Next up, we have the time skip training, where Zoro was put up against a bunch of monkeys known as humandrils. These monkeys have the special ability to copy techniques and moves when observing humans. They are highly intelligent creatures, capable of imitating humans so much that they will mimic any trait they witness. One of the humandrils even used spit to try to heal its wounds, which is a folklore remedy. If they were to see peace, they would become pacifistic creatures. However, 9 years ago, they witnessed a war on Kuraigana Island, causing them to learn how to wield weapons and become bloodthirsty warriors. Plus, by living with Mihawk, they definitely picked up some moves from the strongest swordsman in the world. But in time, and after battling with them, Zoro managed to overcome this obstacle as well, leaving every monkey there lying on the ground utterly defeated. Up next, we have the Straw Hats reuniting at Subodi Archipelago after the 2-year time skip. There, the prototype pacifista appeared to be considerably less formidable when compared to how much trouble it caused the Straw Hats before the time skip. Due to the newfound strength of the Straw Hats, as Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji have become powerful enough to take down the cyborgs by themselves with a single punch, slash, and kick respectively, this threat that used to be massive is now just one attack away from blowing up. On to Fishman Island arc. After the battle between new Fishman pirates and the Straw Hat pirates broke out, Zoro attacked Hody by sending a sword wave at the Fishman. Hody blocked the attack by using one of his own comrades as a shield. When completely underwater, Hody prepared to face off against Zoro. However, even though he had an advantage being underwater, he appeared to be no match for the swordsman, who seemed to have dealt him a grievous, deep wound. A new Fishman pirate gave Hody an energy steroid, reviving him in the process, which technically means Hody Jones was not a victim of Zoro, I guess. Ah well, I suppose the only reason Hody survived was because Luffy was the one who had to take down the boss of the arc. Otherwise, Zoro would have ended the arc right then and there. And yet, Hody Jones was not the only opponent of Zoro during this arc. That's because Hyozo also became a victim of Zoro. After Luffy and Hody left to confront Dekken on Noah, Hyozo consumed a large number of energy steroids and then underwent a transformation much like Hody. Being also drunk as well, he attacked anyone near him, regardless of whose side they were on. He set his sights on Nico Robin and charged at her. Roronoa's Zoro blocked the merman's attack, and the two started to fight. Despite Zoro paying so little attention to the fight that he was able to talk to Chopper, Hyozo was not able to hurt Zoro. When he was finally tired of the fight, Zoro cut the merman's swords to pieces with one attack and commented that Hyozo was not strong enough to kill his boredom. When Zoro seemingly lowered his guard and insulted his opponent by calling him a frog, an angered Hyozo drew new swords, coated them with his own poison, and attempted a sneak attack while yelling that he's the best swordsman on Fishman Island. Zoro effortlessly cut down Hyozo once and for all. Now this was a one-sided massacre. Moving on to Punk Hazard, where Zoro achieved a great feat during this arc, as he became the first character after Ryuma that successfully cut down a dragon. You see, Dragon number 13 was a dragon created by Vegapunk to guard Punk Hazard. This dragon was an extremely powerful fighter, able to easily overwhelm most opponents by breathing large streams of fire. He could also attack by biting opponents with his extremely sharp teeth. And let me tell you, his teeth were strong enough to clash with Zoro's swords, which is no little feat. However, Zoro went on to decapitate him with a single slash. And from there, as you would expect from Luffy, his body was cooked and been eaten by the Straw Hats. And yet once again, we're not done for one arc, because the next victim of Zoro is Monet. Hear this. Monet tried to attack Robin, Nami, and Chopper when they attempted to free the children that were kept as experiments in the island. But Zoro quickly blocked Monet before hurting his crew members. I mean, you better believe that Zoro would not let Chopper be harmed while being present. Zoro cut down the snow barrier, allowing Nami, Chopper, and Robin to leave the Biscuits room. After transforming back to her normal form, Monet continued her fight with Zoro, and once she realized that the goal of the other Straw Hats was to get the children, Monet transformed into her demonic form once more. Monet bit Tashigi's shoulder, but Zoro once again jumped in to save the day. Zoro cut her in the cheek, making her let go of Tashigi. She was surprised at first because she assumed Zoro would never attack women, but got outright frozen in fear as she saw the swordsman rush towards her. Monet was then sliced vertically in half by Zoro. But you see, Zoro did not imbue Haki into his attack, allowing Monet to survive. Due to realizing what would have happened had he used Haki, she was left terrified to the point where she could hardly put her body back together. 21 confirmed victims down, 6 more to go. Before we start analyzing the future characters that Zoro will defeat, let's keep going. The next victim of Zoro is Pika in Dressrosa arc. I mean, this point is kinda double if you think about it. Not only did Zoro destroy Pika in battle, he also destroyed him mentally by laughing at his face for the way he talked. Yeah, Pika was a double victim of Zoro. But when it comes to battle, Pika and Zoro fought multiple times throughout this arc, and Pika has displayed the intent to kill him, especially since Zoro constantly mocked his voice as well as his laugh. However, he eventually acknowledges Zoro's superiority in combat, and thus attempted to avoid him to prey on weaker enemies, which angered Zoro greatly. However, this would later be his downfall, as Zoro caught up to him and cut apart his giant stone statue before engaging him in battle again. Pika was confident his Haki would outclass Zoro's, but the latter proved his Haki was superior before defeating the Don Quixote officer. When Zoro used his new move, Sanzen Senkai, he managed to cut Pika's huge stone body in half. After the top half of his stone body was split into pieces, Pika emerged and coated his body in armament Haki in preparation for attacking Zoro. But Zoro proved his own Haki was stronger and cut Pika once again, utterly defeating him. Moving on to Wano arc, where Zoro left behind 4 different sets of victims. First of all, a group of samurai had the bad luck to mess with him. You see, one night, Zoro was wrongfully arrested for street murders in Wano. On the next day, he is sentenced by the samurais and their group to commit seppuku. Deducing that the magistrate is the culprit, Zoro attacks him and his men, cutting everyone there with a small knife he was given in order to commit seppuku. The next victim of Zoro, none other than Killer. You see, after the chaos at the palace, Orochi hired Killer to kill Toko. He then pursued Toko and Kozuki Hiyori to the Ringo region, where he came across a confrontation between Roronoa Zoro and Yukimaru. Zoro then clashed with Killer in order to protect Toko and Hiyori. When Zoro was distracted by Yukimaru, Killer managed to land a grievous hit on him. However, Zoro was able to take one of his scythes as a result and strike him. After that blow, Killer fell to the ground, utterly defeated. Moving on to the third victim in Wano arc, Scratchman Apu. You see, as the Ninja Pirate Mink Samurai Alliance waged war in Kaido's stronghold, Apu tried to attack Luffy and Sanji. But thanks to Luffy's observation Haki, they were able to protect themselves in time. As Apu was running to call in more of the numbers, Zoro and Drake attacked him, but Apu dodged their attack. Queen tossed the only antibody viral in existence to Apu and threatened to kill him if he lost it. For his own twisted amusement, Queen gave everyone the challenge of taking the antibodies from Apu, causing him to be chased throughout the live stage by both the Alliance and the Beast Pirates. As Apu fled from his pursuers, he was met by a combined assault from Zoro and Drake. While Apu was busy defending himself from Drake's attacks, Zoro struck down Apu and acquired the antibody vial. And next, the most epic battle of Zoro as of now, and the strongest victim Zoro added to his list, King. Being on opposing sides during the war at Onigashima, King and Roronoa Zoro came to battle another fierce battle following Zoro's recovery from his prior fight against Kaido and Big Mom. They initially commented on their differing views on combat as they engaged with each other, with Zoro describing King as, quote, a killing machine for his brutal yet pragmatic fighting style, blending swordplay and hand-to-hand combat. King earned Zoro's wrath when he tried to kill him with his wing instead of a sword, as Zoro saw it as disrespectful, while King truly started to resent Zoro for damaging his mask. Ultimately, although King came to acknowledge Zoro as a capable swordsman worthy of remembrance, he was unwilling to concede until the very end that him being defeated at Zoro's hands was possible, as Zoro was a mere human, and thus had, in King's eyes, nothing on him as a Lunarian, which Zoro found to be a weak excuse. Ah well, I guess King didn't really understand just how much of a massive power boost he got once Zoro saw his face. I mean, damn! Zoro only started winning against King only after his mask was broken. Those who know why this happened, they know. When Zoro subsequently managed to overcome King's Fire Dragon with his own finishing attack on the All-Star, King had a flabbergasted expression on his face. When Zoro pointed out how King had begun blocking his attacks and no longer seemed so invincible, King proclaimed that a human could never stand up to his kind, and if anything at all, King would merely remember Zoro as a decent swordsman. Zoro denied this, saying that he would personally ensure that King remembered him if King managed to survive revive him. Thereupon, King created an even bigger flame dragon to send at Zoro. The latter unhesitatingly jumped at the beast and, using a powerful three-bladed slash, carved it up while sending a concentrated cutting wave toward King, hitting him squarely in his chest, slicing off part of King's right wing and destroying his sword. King is now yet another of Zoro's victims. And now, the last confirmed victim of Zoro as of now, Rob Lucci. Once we analyze this encounter as well, the best part of the video will begin, as we'll predict the future victims of Zoro. But first, Rob Lucci. You see, Rob Lucci seemed way too confident in Egghead, even claiming that because of his Devil Fruit awakening, he would now be able to defeat Luffy, even if now Luffy is one of the 4 emperors. Oh, wait, scratch that! Luffy was literally playing around while absolutely destroying Lucci. Oh well, I guess Lucci will at least be able to easily defeat Zoro, right? Nah, not even close. Despite putting up a fight against Zoro, he was not able to defeat the pirate hunter and suffered serious wounds from him, effectively losing the fight. And now, let's get to the most epic fights and at the same time, the upcoming victims of Zoro that are yet to come in One Piece. Without chronological order, we assume that one of them is gonna be Seraphim Mihawk. Hear me out. We all know that Zoro's sworn enemy and the goal for him to overcome is Mihawk. What better stepping stone for Zoro to power up ahead of his fight with Mihawk other than an imitation of the original strongest swordsman in the world? Not only that, but cough cough, Seraphim Mihawk's design is perfect to make specifically Zoro power up. And those who know, they know. I truly believe that Mihawk versus Zoro will be Zoro's final battle in One Piece, and because of that, Zoro needs to be absolutely prepared for that match. But before Mihawk, there will be more swordsmen in the path of Zoro. One of these will be none other than Shiryu. Now remember, Shiryu is a swordsman, and on top of that, he's also a Devil Fruit user. His Devil Fruit is the Suke no Mi, a Paramecia-type Devil Fruit that allows Shiryu to turn invisible. It's almost certain that the Straw Hats will fight against the Blackbeard pirates, and when they do, Zoro's opponent will most likely be Shiryu. But how will Zoro fight him if Shiryu can turn invisible? Well, by honing his observation haki to the maximum. By fighting Shiryu, this will be the perfect way for Zoro to develop his observation haki in order to be prepared for his upcoming fight with Mihawk. All I will say is that Zoro will need every power-up he can get in order to stand a chance against Mihawk. Now, the other swordsman I bet you never thought would fight Zoro is this swordsman from the Red Hair Pirates. But what swordsman do the Red Hair Pirates have in their crew? Ben Beckman. Hear me out. What if I told you that Ben Beckman is actually a secret swordsman and does not only use pistols as a fighting style? You see, we now know that the one who cut off Kid's arm is Beckman and not Shanks. How can someone who uses pistols cut someone's arm? A more logical injury would be to be pierced with bullets rather than get his arm cut off. This doesn't make sense, right? Exactly. Oda has been hiding Beckman's actual fighting style for the confrontation of the Straw Hats versus the Red Hair Pirates. Luffy already stated that he intends to fight Shanks and his crew. Naturally, Luffy will fight Shanks, but who will Zoro fight? The right-hand man of the Red Hair Pirates, Ben Beckman. But wait, Zoro almost always fights swordsmen, right? Yeah, and that's why I strongly believe that Beckman will be revealed later on to be a swordsman. Now, the next victim of Zoro will be none other than one of the 5 elders. But which one exactly? Check this. When you observe the 5 elders, all of them reference a planet, and not only that, a pattern seems to emerge as well. Saint J. Garcia Saturn references the planet Saturn, Saint Marcus Mars references the planet Mars, Saint Topman Mercury references the planet Mercury, Saint Ethan Baron V. Nusjuro references the planet Venus, and Saint Shepherd Jupiter references the planet Jupiter. But what does this tell us about their strength? You see, if we take our solar system as a reference, Imu is none other than Earth. As you probably already know, the Earth is around 70% water or sea. Imu's name, when flipped, spells Umi, which means sea in Japanese. Umi is the strongest between her and the 5 elders. From there onwards, the 2 strongest among the 5 elders are Saint Marcus Mars, that references the planet Mars, and Saint Ethan Baron V. Nusjuro, that references the planet Venus, as these 2 planets are the closest to Earth. The further someone is to Imu, the weaker they are. Nusjuro and Marcus Mars are the strongest among the elders, and they are the ones that will fight Sanji and Zoro while Luffy fights Imu. Among the rest of the elders, Saint Topman Mercury, that references the planet Mercury, and Saint Shepherd Jupiter, that references Jupiter, are the next 2 in terms of strength, with Saint J. Garcia Saturn, that references the planet Saturn, being the weakest among the 5 elders. With this pattern in mind, Sanji and Zoro will fight Nusjuro and Marcus Mars. But who will fight who? Well, among the 2, Nusjuro is a swordsman, which leads us to believe that he will be Zoro's opponent in the end, and thus he will be Zoro's upcoming victim. Not only that, but check this color spread Oda drew a while back. Zoro holds a shield with a bird on it, which references Mars's Devil Fruit transformation, while Sanji holds a shield with a horse on it, which references Nusjuro's Devil Fruit transformation. So once again, this confirms the Zoro and Sanji versus Nusjuro and Mars theory. It's true, however, that Sanji has already begun fighting with Nusjuro in the recent manga chapters, but if I had to guess, I would say that the one who will actually defeat Nusjuro is Zoro. But either way, I strongly believe that either Nusjuro Destro or Mars will be among Zoro's victims. Keep in mind, this might come in later arcs of the show, as in the end, the Straw Hats might just escape Egghead without defeating everyone present, meaning that the 5 Elders and Straw Hats will have a rematch later on. And finally, the one we already mentioned as the most likely final victim of Zoro, Mihawk. Not many things to say about this, other than Mihawk has been Zoro's goal from the start. Once Mihawk is added in Zoro's victim list, then Zoro will finally be called the strongest swordsman in the world, and thus have achieved his goal. Click on this video, where we present what would have happened if Ace awakened his devil fruit during his fight with Blackbeard. Go on, check it out!